Everyone knows Stray Kids for their style, their energy, their sound. But not everyone knows where that sound came from. Before all the awards, world tours, and even Stray Kids, there was one creative engine shaping it from the beginning, 3RACHA. Three trainees at JYP Entertainment who spent their off hours producing music in a practice room. Chan had been training since 2010. Jisung arrived around 2015, and Changbin joined in 2016. They formed 3RACHA in 2017 and started releasing music independently on SoundCloud as they honed their craft. Chan took the name CB97, his initials and birth year. Changbin became Spear B. Jisung chose j.one. But the collaboration went deeper than stage names. It was about establishing a unified creative vision from the start.
저희 팀을 만들게 됐을 때 저희 3RACHA 팀 기준으로 이제 세워서 저랑 지성이 창빈이 이렇게 셋이서 시작했는데요.
They wrote about their frustrations, ambitions, and their reality as trainees stuck in limbo. There was no corporate filter or sanitized idol image. Just three young producers trying to prove they belonged in the industry. JYP Entertainment noticed. More importantly, they listened. The company had tried multiple times to debut Chan in various groups. Nothing stuck. But this, a group built around self-production, led by these three, held genuine promise. What made this different was that the label recognized something organic forming. Instead of imposing a direction, they watched 3RACHA naturally define what the group could become. The plan took shape in late 2017, a survival show with 9 trainees, and at the center, 3RACHA as the creative engineers who would build the sound, the identity, the entire concept of what the group could be. The trio didn't wait for the survival show to begin to establish their artistic voice. They had an archive of music ready before the cameras even rolled. Matryoshka dropped on SoundCloud on January 2017. The first track from 3RACHA, the sound was abrasive and experimental, with bass-heavy production and rapid-fire verses that switched flows every 8 bars. This standard was not designed to fit into K-pop's mainstream. It was simply 3 kids making noise because they had something authentic to say. The track 42 came next, followed by other tracks like Alchemistry and Runner's High as part of their early output. Each track built their reputation in the underground trainee circuit. Other trainees knew about 3RACHA. Producers at JYP took notice. The trio was creating a catalog while most trainees were still perfecting choreography. The work ethic was relentless. While other trainees clocked standard hours, Chan operated on a different schedule entirely. The practice room became a second home. Early mornings bled into late nights. Sleep became optional. The drive to create never stopped, even when exhaustion set in.
찬이 형은 거의 매일 5시까지 해요, 저 형은. 새벽 5시까지. 그리고 10시 때 출근하고 저였으면 벌써 쓰러졌을 거예요, 진짜. 진짜 대단한 형이에요.
Their second mixtape, 3 Days, was released in August, featuring Hoodie Season. The production and the flow was improved, with English verses bringing melodic relief between aggressive delivery and intricate wordplay. The chemistry was undeniable. For You was part of their third mixtape, Horizon, released later in December 2017. Softer and more melodic, it showed range. By the end of 2017, 3RACHA had built a discography of over a dozen tracks. No official releases, no music show appearances, just a growing archive on SoundCloud that proved they could sustain creative output. They had the work ethic, they had the chemistry, they had the sound. JYP's Survival Show announcement came soon after. Stray Kids would launch in late 2017, documenting the formation of a new boy group. And at the heart of it, 3 producers who had already proven they didn't need permission to create. The first episode of Stray Kids aired on Mnet in mid-October 2017. 9 trainees across 10 episodes. The mission proved they deserved to debut under JYP Entertainment. Unlike typical survival shows, this was focused less on traditional vocal runs or dance breaks and more on identity. It centered on sound and whether these 9 people could function as a cohesive unit. Bangchan led the group not just as the oldest trainee, but as the creative director who selected the members himself. He'd been training for 7 years, he knew JYP standards, and he knew 3RACHA's sound could be the crucial differentiator in a saturated industry. Episode 1 opened with the trainees performing Hellevator, a track written and produced by 3RACHA. Dark and cinematic, the song talked about climbing out of struggle, rising from the bottom. The judges questioned whether the sound was too aggressive, too far from JYP's traditional style. Chan defended it, explaining this was the group's unique, that it was what made them different. In the show, original songs like Hellevator and 4419 were featured in earlier evaluation rounds. The song Ya 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 came later in the series for a live performance mission. Finally, both Spread My Wings and Beware were introduced during the live finale. Every major evaluation round featured a new 3RACHA produced track. The group was building their catalog in real time, on television, under pressure. What once took weeks now took hours.
지금의 스트레이키즈와도 마찬가지로 그러니까 진짜 짧은 시간 동안 정말 많이 늘었어요. 3RACHA라는 프로듀싱 팀이 잘했던 적도 있지만 진짜 별로였던 적이 더 많았던 3RACHA였어요. 근데 지금은 쓰는 속도도 정말 빨라졌고 그 곡의 퀄리티도 진짜 많이 높아졌고.
Episode 8 was emotional due to Felix's elimination. In the final live broadcast, JYP reversed the eliminations. Both Lino and Felix rejoined the stage. It was after these unified performances that their debut as a complete 9-member group was confirmed. The survival show ended with a strong, united team ready for their official journey. And from there, the real work began. Stray Kids officially debuted with the mini-album I Am Not and its title track, District 9, in late March 2018. The title track opened with sirens and industrial beats, a rebellion anthem wrapped in K-pop packaging. 3RACHA produced and wrote the entire mini-album around the concept of rejecting societal expectations. And they were transparent about it.
어디 가서도 우리 얘기야, 우리 음악이야. 거짓된 거 하나도 없어. 그냥 진짜 이 앨범 안에, 우리 곡 안에 우리 얘기가 담겨 있고, 우리가 하고 싶은 말이 담겨 있고. 네, 그런 면에서 진짜 자부심이 있는 것 같아요.
District 9 charted at number 4 on the Ga-On album chart. This was a solid start for a rookie group from a major label. The real statement, however, was the music itself, designed not for instant virality, but to build a lasting identity. The album included Mirror, Awaken, and Rock. Each track carried 3RACHA's signature, layered production, aggressive verses, anthemic choruses. The sound was maximalist, often chaotic in the best way, and it felt genuinely alive. Mirror stood out as a turning point in their approach to lyricism. Critics noted the group's unusual level of creative control. Most rookie groups debuted with tracks from established in-house producers. Stray Kids debuted with their own self-produced music. JYP allowed it and encouraged it. The label had realized what the survival show proved. This group worked because of 3RACHA's leadership. Summer brought I Am Who. The title track My Pace shifted the sound, slightly being more melodic and accessible. It was still energetic, but offered room to breathe, charting higher than their debut. Commercial validation had arrived. But 3RACHA did not simply chase trends. I Am Who also included Voices, a track confronting anxiety and self-doubt and question, which pushed back against the superficiality of fame. I Am You completed the trilogy in October 2018. The title track brought warmth and gratitude toward their fans, a moment of vulnerability after months of proving themselves. The production glowed with maturity. 3 mini-albums in just 8 months, all produced by 3RACHA. all charting well and contributing to a narrative that felt cohesive, intentional, and entirely their own. Most rookie groups spent their first year figuring out their identity. Stray Kids debuted with theirs already firmly locked in. The year 2019 opened with j.one, Miroh. Exactly 1 year after debut, the title track Miroh crashed through speakers like a victory lap. The beat dropped hard and the energy peaked immediately. This was 3RACHA operating at full capacity. Layered synths, shifting tempos, and a chorus that felt inevitable. The album sold over 100,000 copies in its first week. The group's first music show win for Miroh came within a week. The group was ascending fast, and every track had 3RACHA's fingerprints. Key 2, Yellow Wood, followed in June. The title track Side Effects divided listeners with its experimental, dissonant sound. The production intentionally felt chaotic to reflect the album's theme, the disorienting effects of sudden fame. Some fans loved it, some did not. 3RACHA maintained their artistic integrity, prioritizing expression over consensus. Side Effects proved something crucial. They could take risks. They had enough commercial success for experimentation, and JYP trusted them enough to allow it. Hellevator closed the series in December. The title track softened, becoming more emotional as the production breathed. A display of maturity. Having proved they could go hard, now they showed they could pull back with intention. And then the pandemic hit, and Go Live arrived in March 2020. God's Menu changed everything. The beat hit like a statement of dominance. The music video became one of their most viewed ever, currently sitting at over 540 million views on YouTube. God's Menu solidified their style and was a declaration that refined 3RACHA's sound into something undeniable. The Go Live album itself was certified platinum by j.one charts for selling over 250,000 copies, a first for the group. International charts and platforms responded. The group's sound, built entirely by 3RACHA, was breaking through. In Life extended the momentum in September. Backdoor kept the energy high. The repackage included more 3RACHA produced B-sides. Every track contributed to the narrative. Nothing felt like filler. NOEASY dropped in August 2021. The album sold over 1 million copies, becoming the first million-selling album for both the group and JYP Entertainment. Thunderous led the charge, with culture-inspired visuals contrasting with the aggressive production. 3RACHA was writing the group's story in real time, era by era, without ever losing the thread. Ordinary arrived in March 2022, and Maniac explored the madness of perfectionism. The choreography, the visuals, the production, all cohesive and intentional. This album was their first to top the US Billboard 200 chart. Maxident followed in October 2022. With the track Case 143, they brought a different, more playful energy. The production was sharp, but the mood lighter. The album sold over 3 million cumulative copies, making them a triple million seller and a true commercial force. 5 Star landed in June 2023 with the track S-Class. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, one of several K-pop albums to do so that year. 3RACHA's production had carried Stray Kids to the top of the American charts. Rock Star came in November 2023, and La 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 continued the hot streak with more experimentation and risks. The production never stagnated. Every era, album and title track featured 3RACHA's names in the credits. Other groups had in-house producers and wrote their own songs, but at that time, no one in fourth-generation K-pop had given 3 members this much consistent creative control across this many releases. The formula worked because it was rooted in authenticity, not a manufactured concept. It was 3 producers who understood the group's identity because they built it from the ground up. The numbers started speaking internationally around 2020. God's Menu had broke 100 million views on YouTube within months. The algorithm pushed it, and reaction channels dissected it. The song became a gateway for international fans, discovering K-pop through something that did not sound like everything else in the mainstream. 3RACHA's production style translated globally. The aggressive beats worked in Europe. The rapid-fire verses resonated in South America. The anthemic choruses brought more fans in North America. The music was designed to hit hard everywhere. Virtual shows reached fans globally during pandemic lockdowns in 2021. Stray Kids performed at events like K-Contact. The group's sound, entirely crafted by 3RACHA, became a soundtrack for isolation, frustration, and ambition. Stray Kids performed at Lollapalooza Paris in July 2022. This was a major global music festival, not strictly a K-pop event. The setlist consisted entirely of 3RACHA-produced tracks, and the crowd responded enthusiastically. The group was not being accepted as a novelty, but was recognized as a legitimate, stadium-level act. The music industry could not ignore a group that wrote and produced everything themselves and still topped charts. Stray Kids became the first K-pop group to headline a stadium show in Korea that year, performing at the Incheon Asiad Main Stadium during their Dominate World Tour. The setlist was their catalog built entirely by 3RACHA, and the crowd sang every word. The global recognition was about sound and authenticity, not just language or market research. Other producers tried to replicate the style. The Stray Kids sound became a reference point, dark, aggressive, maximalist. But the imitators missed the point. The sound worked because it reflected the people making it. Members that were trying to create music that felt true to themselves. Fourth generation K-pop redefined what it meant to be an idol, emphasizing authenticity and direct connection with fans. 3RACHA didn't invent the self-producing idol, as other groups had members involved in production before them. However, they proved the model could work at a massive commercial scale. They showed that giving creative control to young artists was not a risk, but a definitive advantage that resonated globally. Other groups and labels started emphasizing member participation in production. Songwriting credits became crucial marketing points. The industry shifted because groups like Stray Kids and producers like 3RACHA proved the model was a commercially viable path to global success. But the influence goes beyond industry trends. Stray Kids' identity is inseparable from 3RACHA's vision. The group's sound, their concepts, their narrative, all stem from three producers who understood what they wanted to say before anyone gave them a platform. Every album tells a story, and every era builds on the last. The catalog feels intentional because it is. The other members contributed too. Their success was never a one-sided operation. The sound, the structure, the creative DNA came from three. They set a precedent. A K-pop group led by its own producers, a group that didn't wait for permission, a group that built its identity from the ground up and refused to compromise its core sound for easy market appeal. The legacy is not just the music or the chart performance, it is the proof that young artists can lead the creative direction of a global phenomenon. It shows that creative control is not something you earn after years of success. It is something you claim from the start. 3RACHA claimed that control, and they built an entire empire on it. The Stray Kids hits kept coming, each one co-written and produced by 3RACHA, from the Latin-influenced track Chick Chick Boom of the 2024 EP 8 to their Japanese studio album Giant, also released that year. In 2025 alone, 3RACHA left their fingerprints on every track of the Japanese EP Hollow, the fourth Korean studio album Karma, and the latest surprise mixtape SKZ Tape Do It, released in November 2025. This relentless output solidified their position not just as in-house producers, but as industry trendsetters who proved that artist-led groups could dominate global charts. 3RACHA didn't revolutionize K-pop alone. They stood on the shoulders of every producers and artists who came before. But they carved out space for something new. They proved that creative control belongs in the hands of artists willing to fight for it. That young producers can effectively lead major groups. That authenticity resonates more than polished image. Stray Kids will keep releasing music, and the chart have no option but to reward it. And every track traces back to three kids who take music into their own hand. 3RACHA built it, Stray Kids stands on it, and Stay makes it worth. 3RACHA, dared to be bold, will you?